Hey, what's up, folks? Welcome back to On Texas Football. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis. Pleased to be joined by fellow lifetime Longhorn, the young prodigy CJ Vogel, and also joined by my good friend, esteemed colleague Jeff Howe. Today, we're going to be talking about spring position battles. No spring football on the horizon. We'll be talking about some of the key position battles on the defensive side of things. And guys, we'll start in the secondary, where I'm a little bit partial to that. So let's start in the secondary at the safety position. I happen to think this may be one of the most important position battles on the entire team, because we don't know who's going to start with Michael Taft departing, Jelani McDonald coming back, of course, at the safety position. Who's going to be that other starting safety for Texas? We're not too sure about that. There's some names, obviously, that Longhorn fans are familiar with. Xavier Phil-Samiz in that conversation. Derek Williams come up in that conversation as well. Who knows? Jonah Williams, of course. A lot of people love that name because the freakish athleticism, but he's a guy whose attention is divided because he's a two-sport star. Let's talk about this position battle, guys, because this one, I will even tell you, I'm not too sure how it's going to lay out. Let's talk about who the front runners are and how this thing could play out. CJ, you first. Let's talk about safety, and what are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, this is going to be a very interesting spring, right? And for the names you just mentioned, let's go through them again. Jonah Williams, baseball. Xavier Phil-Samiz, shoulder surgery. Silas Hicks was in a boot after the final game as well. So you're pretty unsure right now of what that spring will look like, that tandem with Jelani McDonald. For all we know right now, Jelani McDonald is your one safety. And then it's all about finding who else could be that 2, the 3, the 4 that we've seen. And Texas didn't rotate a lot at the safety position a year ago. Does that change under Will Muschamp? We'll have to wait and see. But, you'd like to have at least 2 deep, right? 4 safeties is kind of what you'd hope to see. But for those 4 in the spring, I'm pretty unsure at the moment how that rundown will look, especially considering you go back through the latter half of December in bowl preparation. Jordan Johnson-Rubel, who is back, right? Yeah. Another name that's not mentioned a lot. He was working at linebacker. So it's a whole bunch of question marks in one room alone, with really the only constant that we're aware of at the moment is Jelani McDonald.
Yep. Jeff, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'll throw in another one in there, another factor, and it kind of bleeds into the competition at corner too, because we know Will Muschamp has preferred a bigger nickelback. Now, if that's the case, let's say hypothetically, does he prefer Jelani McDonald in the nickel? Okay. Well, if he does, where does Grayson Littleton move? And how does that impact the corner opposite of Cade Phillips? Does it impact Cade Phillips at all? And to CJ's point, I think there's so much unknown. Man, do Will Muschamp and Blake Giddy and Rod throw us a curveball this spring where maybe they take Kobe Black and or Warren Roberson? I'm like, hey, we don't see you guys winning a job at corner, but there is playing time to be had at safety, so move one or both of those guys to safety. Deuce Cunningham is another guy that, hey, is he a linebacker? Is he a safety? Does Will Muschamp have something different for him just when you're talking about depth and trying to figure out numbers? So there's a lot of – I think you look at everywhere in the secondary. There's just so many moving parts. Like this is – I think you have to break those position battles, right? I think you have to break it up into 3 segments. I think we're going to see one period during spring ball. I think you're going to see another during summer conditioning when the guys are working out by themselves. And then I think you're going to have to go into camp and sort some of this stuff out just because of who's healthy, who's not. And hey, if you do move somebody to safety and they take to that position, okay, so what does that mean for Xavier Phil-Samiz when he's healthy, Jonah Williams when he's done with baseball? So there are just so many moving parts. That to me, the secondary is the most fascinating position group to me. If you want to combine safeties, nickels, and corners, other than offensive line, it's the position group that fascinates me the most.
Yeah, man, that is really compelling, the case you laid out there, because it is the perfect time for experimentation. This is it. Spring is when you want to experiment because you do got time to adjust and to reevaluate in the off season and then training camp. So if you do an experiment, I love your idea, man. I'm from the old school kind of Coach Aquino philosophy. Obviously, he's no longer here, but he loved multiplicity, loved cross training guys. I believe that everybody in the secondary should have a, no pun intended, secondary position that they play. Right? I think everybody should have one, whether you be a corner and a nickel, whether you be a safety and a nickel, whether it be a safety in the corner. Maybe you can play all the positions. I truly believe that. I love your idea of Kobe Black. I've heard Jerry mention that as well. Shout out to him. Kobe Black or Warren Roberson guys who are right now kind of relegated in a backup role, potentially at corner, to see if those guys have the physicality and the kind of the quick processing. It's the best way to say it, at safety, to be able to diagnose plays. And like you said, if they take to it, at least you got a way to manufacture depth. But maybe you find a hidden gem. So I like that idea of experimenting. I've even heard people talk about Grayson Littleton, seeing if he takes the safety a little bit. Why not experiment with him there as well? He has like 35 snaps or something at safety when they do their inverted defender look in that secondary, and they road to it. They usually have him as one of those two high defenders. So I like that idea, Jeff. Honestly, that might be your best option in the spring. It's just to see, hey, let's see if one of these corners can do it. If not, it's fine. When you get the other guys back from injury, then we'll sort it out. But at least we can develop some depth there, potentially. Yeah.
One name, again, that we haven't talked a lot about, but kind of goes back to the unknown and the question marks is, do we see that 2024 version of Derek Williams, right? Because, of course, that was a big retention win for Texas to keep him out of the portal. With Will Muschamp coming back, what does he look like athletically? And that, of course, would be a huge addition to the Texas secondary room. Basically, that entire safety room is if he looks like he was whenever he was a true freshman at Texas, when Texas made the run to the semifinals.
Yeah.
You go back to the bowl game, too. Another guy that I didn't mention, does Wardell Mack figure into this somewhere? Whether it's a nickel, corner, does he get a look at safety? So, and it's interesting, Rod. Some of these guys have a little bit of experience with Blake Gideon in that room, even though if they were here in 2024. But for the most part, with a new defensive coordinator, that usually means you're starting with a clean slate. It's a little bit different in the secondary, though, because Mark Orfe's back and Blake Gideon's back after being gone for a year. So there is still some track record there, maybe some residual thought. So it's not a complete clean slate for those guys. But, yeah, there's a lot to be determined in that secondary.
Yeah, it seems I agree with you, CJ. Derek Williams has a great opportunity here, considering all the uncertainty that we're talking about. But I love your solution potentially to the whole thing, Jeff, which is let's experiment. And if anything, at least we'll manufacture depth cross training guys if knock on wood, worst case scenario happens during the season. But I like that idea. If you're a corner, you can definitely cover tight ends at the safety position and running backs. And I think as long as you got the physicality, Kobe Black does have some of that. And we know Warren Roberson can lay the wood that, maybe those guys will work at safety a little bit. So I like that idea, but good discussion there, gentlemen. All right, let's move on. There's another position, actually, that's going to be, I think, a little bit of a heated position battle during the spring. And it's that edge position, the edge position opposite Colin Simmons. Now, Ethan Burke leaving. Ethan Burke was great. I found a random Ethan Burke stat I want to share with you guys because it was so good that I want to share it. Ethan Burke, if you look at run stop percentage, dude was third in the country, tied with Jacob Rodriguez. Yeah, isn't that crazy? In run stop percentage. I'm talking about all defenders. Dude was a beast last year against the run. He was at over 15%. And run stop percentage, run stop rate, according to Pro Football Focus. Anyway, I digress. Who's going to be that guy opposite Colin Simmons? Because Ethan Burke did a great job of developing into that guy, and then obviously kind of following the path of a Baron Sorrell. Are we looking at someone else that is going to kind of develop into that next one, or does Texas need someone to help them right away at this position? Jeff, I'll throw it to you first. What are you thinking about at the edge position opposite Colin Simmons in this competition?
Well, there's, similar to how I would view guys like Kobe Black, Warren Roberson, Wardell Mack in the secondary, guys that flirted with the portal, Derek Williams too, but they decided to come back. Okay, now you should have the chip on your shoulder to go compete for a job. Like, why did you come back? Are you coming back just to have a safe place, or are you coming back to try to make a difference? I could say the same thing with some guys in that edge room, namely Zeno Mosolo and Colton Bosick. Those guys could have easily gone elsewhere. And in some places, depending on where they went, probably been walk-in starters, but they're going to compete for that job. In Muschamp's defense, Rod, and you know this, having studied that defense, like that buck end, that buck linebacker, which is where Colin Simmons is going to play. That's that's a really good spot for maybe Smith the Robo to get his feet wet, like playing behind Colin Simmons. But looking at that edge opposite of him, Lance Jackson's in that mix, Zeno Mosolo's in that mix, Colton Bosick's in that mix, and CJ, he's young. And he's on campus as a true freshman early enrollee. But, man, tell me why Richard Wesley can't go compete for playing time right now. If he may be young, but if he's ready, what's the old Coach Royal saying? If you're old enough, you're good enough. Yeah, I mean, Richard Wesley may be that guy. Those guys, with coming back, working under Lealon Clark, it's going to be a little bit different in terms of what they're asked to do. But I'm expecting some guys to have some chips on their shoulders in that spot opposite of Colin Simmons.
It's interesting. Had the change at defensive coordinator not been made, I feel like I'd already have my choice here on the opposite edge, and it'd be Zeno Mozelo. And that might be a little bit of a surprise, but you go back and you look at kind of the skill sets of each edge tandem that Texas has had over the last few years and, kind of piece together what Texas is working with in the room. You have your designated pass rusher of Colin Simmons, right? And then you got to find a guy, and Rod, that stat about Ethan Burke, I'm glad you brought it up because it fit the bill with Barron Sorrell as well.
Yep.
An edge rusher that was great at setting an edge, playing the run, and would give you something in the pass game, but it wasn't necessarily his forte. That to me is a little bit more of what Zena is at in his career at the moment. And that's not to say he won't ever become one of those more dynamic edge rushers in the pass rushing game, but that's kind of where things are at now with Muschamp. We know that he likes to weaponize his guys. He likes to have those guys that you can sit there and say at any point you can see pressure generated at the quarterback. So who might that be, all while knowing that playing the run in the SEC is very important? That opens things up for a Lance Jackson to earn the role there, right? And again, he's not a guy that you look at from a size perspective and say that you're missing anything. I just think at the point right now, Zena is maybe just a little bit further along in his run stopping ability. So that's going to be interesting. But I think it's between the two of those guys with Richard Wesley or Colton Vosick with an outside look into that rotation at the moment.
Yeah, and I like both of them actually as run defenders. And they're really close. If you look at pressure rate from Zena and from Lance Jackson, they're both around 10%. And that's the thing that was fascinating about Barron Sorrell and Ethan Burke. Neither one of those guys were really natural pass rushers either when they first got to Texas. And they really evolved and developed their pass rushing repertoire. By the time Barron Sorrell left, man, he was actually winning some one-on-ones. I did a great job. They would bump Barron Sorrell inside a lot of times on those sub packages, on those NASCAR packages, and he would eat them guards alive. He was just way too athletic for him. And I wonder with guys like Lance Jackson and Zena, bigger frames, right? These guys were 260-something, 6'5". I wonder if you'll have some fronts where you can bump those guys inside, spin down a Rasheem Biles on the edge or somebody else, or Brad Spence on the edge and do some funky stuff with some fronts and get those guys some matchup advantages in pass rush situations. But it's a good point about what you said, CJ. Looking back at what Ethan Burke did, which one of those guys can stop the run and be stout versus the run first, that's probably who's going to win the job first.
There's a
added benefit after that.
Sorry, there's a lot about Will Muschamp's first run at Texas that I go back to, and like as good as he was, the personnel he was recruiting, it's like, okay, how good could that defense have been? Like, where was it going to go? And when I look at this edge group, I think he could have the blueprint for, I think, what he was trying to do at Texas the first time is the group he handpicked, the edge duo he handpicked, but he never got to coach both of them. It was Jackson Jeffcoat and Cedric Reed, which fit exactly, I think, what you've got right now. You've got like Jeffcoat, like Colin Simmons, pure pass rusher, just knack for getting after the quarterback. I think we can all agree Colin Simmons more physically gifted than Jackson Jeffcoat was. And then in Cedric Reed, you had the long arm guy who was a little underdeveloped, but was going to be that 275, 280 long arm guy that stopped the run first and foremost, but was more than capable once you developed him of being able to rush the passer. So I think that, to me, I think that's kind of the blueprint. And you look at the personnel, I think you've got the personnel to replicate that. The one guy we haven't talked about in that edge mix, though, I don't know if you put Justice Terry in this group or if we just consider him like a wild card player because, almost, I hate to say it about a defensive lineman, Rob, but he's almost like a positionless chess piece that you can't really pigeonhole him into one spot. You want to kind of use him however, but I think that Jeffcoat Reed blueprint, I think Muschamp can execute that in his second go around at Texas.
No, it's a good point about Justice Terry, though, because I agree with you. I just think, in all these conversations we have about, D-line, D-tackle, edge, that freak will factor into it. That's just the way it is. Like, they're going to find a way to put that freak out there. and they should. No doubt about it. All right, great stuff, gentlemen. That's kind of the two biggest position battles of the spring. We know there'll be obviously guys fighting for playing time and in the rotation, but the good thing about the defense is you do have a lot of it already set for you. Young Cade Phillips did earn that spot. We all believe he's going to be a returning starter for you. Grayson Littleton was a starter for you at nickel all season long. He's going to be a starter for you, no doubt about that. Jelani McDonald coming back as a starter on that defensive line. Hero Kanu, Alex January, you bringing in Ian Jaffrard. Linebacker is going to be loaded, of course, with Ty Anthony Smith and now Rasheem Biles, and you got Colin Simmons. So it ain't a lot up for grabs on that defense. That's a good thing for Longhorn fans. All right, good stuff. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, CJ. Appreciate all you guys. Appreciate all you guys for watching and for listening. And for Jeff and for CJ, I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis. Until next time, hook 'em horns.